last week I did my top 10 best and worst movies of the 70s. I'm going into the next decade for this one. This is my top 10 best and worst movies of the 80s. Let's start with the top 10 best. Number 10. Caddyshack. This is just one of the funniest golf films that I've ever seen in my life. It's so insane and so unrealistic that it winds up being a whole heck of a lot of fun. The movie goes in so many directions and is so uneven, but it doesn't really matter. The main plot of the movie is actually about the main character, Danny, trying to win a scholarship to college, and the way to do that is to win a golf tournament. This is just a great cast of comedians. Rodney Dangerfield, Chevy Chase, Ted Knight, Bill Murray. Just this cast of actors that don't have one dull moment on screen. I think the funniest part about the movie, aside from the actors, is the film's cliché look on golf. At the time, a lot of people were still sold on golf being a white man's sport. So the movie takes that cliché to the next level. It's all rich doctors, lawyers, real estate agents, and the only black guy in the entire film is a servant on the course. It's so far out there and so unrealistic in today's world that it winds up being funny. Number 9. Back to the Future. This is one of those films where everyone knew it was a classic right from the beginning. Back to the Future was such a big leap forward in the world of film and storytelling. The time travel storyline definitely wasn't new by any means. Time travel had been in film for years, but Back to the Future was the first film where it felt real right from the get-go. It's about a teenager named Marty who's friends with a scientist named Dr. Emmett Brown, who Marty calls Doc. Doc builds a time machine using a DeLorean that runs off plutonium. After Doc is shot by terrorists, Marty goes back in time by accident while trying to get away from the terrorist. From there, he almost ruins his future by interrupting his mother and father from ever meeting, and it's his job to get them back together. It's so well written and such a heartwarming story that you instantly become hooked. The characters are perfectly developed, and the plot, even to this day, still keeps me on the edge of my seat. Even after all of the times that I've watched it and knowing that the parents end up together in the end, the scene in the dance where Marty's hand disappears and George almost walks away still keeps me guessing. It's the scene just like in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, where Charlie finds the golden ticket and everyone is around him trying to look at it. I always have a fear that someone's going to take it. So overall, Back to the Future is simply a classic tale with the perfect story and characters. Number 8. The Goonies. No movie screams 80s fantasy movie more than The Goonies. The way it's shot, the way it's acted, and the concept screams it. But that's what makes The Goonies great. A story about kids who go looking for treasure to save their town. The treasure belonging to an old pirate named One-Eyed Willie. It's such a stupid story that it winds up becoming very charming in a way. All of the kids are just fantastic, and I love the villains in the film. My favorite is Anne Ramsey as Ma Fratelli. What makes her really funny is how straight she plays the character. She plays it like your average evil villain, to where everyone else is very outrageous, and that just makes her character even more funny. The film is also home to two of my favorite sequences in film, the long slide that led to One-Eyed Willie's ship and the candy bar sequence with Chunk and Sloth. The film is just innocent fun, and a film that was wonderfully brought to life by Richard Donner and Steven Spielberg. Some critics might not have gotten it, but this is one of those films where it seemed like the filmmakers weren't even trying to impress them. Number 7. Ghostbusters. Want to watch a ghost movie that will make you laugh non-stop? You can't go wrong with Ghostbusters, the story about 3 men who go into business where they rid people's homes and businesses of ghosts. It sounds weird, but it's easily one of the funniest films in film history. Written by Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis, they wrote a story that was not only funny, but also very honest that it worked very well on screen. Now, when I say honest, I don't mean true. I mean in its attitude and its tone. There's something very innocent and genuine about Ghostbusters. It's one of those films where you can tell how much effort and work went into it right from the get-go, and how hard everyone tried, and all of that effort really worked. I don't think there's a single actor that I don't love in this film. Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis, and Ernie Hudson had the perfect chemistry as the 4 Ghostbusters and made a great team. Add in the classic humor of Rick Moranis and the very straight performance of Sigourney Weaver, and you have the perfect cast. And don't take my straight performance comment as a knock against Weaver. In comedies like this, there has to be someone who is very level-headed and very straightforward. And she plays that, and it makes it all the more funny, especially in her scenes with Bill Murray. So with Ghostbusters, I simply love this film. It's non-stop laughs. Number 6. The Color Purple. Having been a fan of the original novel, I can honestly say that this adaptation couldn't have ended up any better. I definitely give Steven Spielberg a lot of credit because, in a way, he, more than anyone else, had a lot to prove of himself as a director. Critics and fans are always blinded by other people's previous work and think that an actor or director are unable to venture outside of their boundaries. For instance, Spielberg was known for films like E.T., Indiana Jones, and Jaws, and was not known for drama, so he had a lot to prove. With The Color Purple, in terms of loyalty to the source material, acting, and direction, this film is almost perfect. Whoopi Goldberg plays the main character Celie wonderfully, and I also love Danny Glover in the role of Albert. Spielberg was also very subtle in his directing. It was a nice contrast to his other works at the time and proved that he could transition to drama beautifully. I think the main reason why I love the story is because it's painfully true in so many areas. This is the part of history that teachers don't like to bring up in schools. A lot of critics did criticize the violence in the movie, but I say if you're going to make a drama based in a certain time period, there are certain things that you have to be brutally honest about in order to make it real. The Color Purple is just one of those dramas that's just great from beginning to end. It's well acted, well told, and the cinematography and locations that they film in are extremely beautiful. Number 5. Star Wars Return of the Jedi. Up until recently, this was chronologically the last of the 6 Star Wars films, and it was a great ending. Some might argue that this ranks pretty low on the list compared to most charts, but I do have a reason, and I'll get to that. Return of the Jedi wins me over for its amazing ending. If you ever wanted a great ending to a long-running series, it's definitely here in Return of the Jedi. However, unlike the first 2 films, this one did present one nearly fatal flaw: Ewoks. I don't know what Lucas was thinking when he wrote those hideous characters in the film, but he nearly ruined the entire thing. Besides that horrible element, Return of the Jedi stands on its own very well. The space action sequences are amazing, and the characters are just as good as they were before. The story between Luke and his father Darth Vader, aka Anakin Skywalker, is just so well told, and the removal of Darth Vader's mask still stands as one of my favorite scenes in film. A lot of people consider this film to be a little bit on the dark side, no pun intended, in terms of tone, but considering the storyline and the fact that this ended the story, it didn't surprise me whatsoever. To keep this summary short and sweet, it was the perfect ending, and unfortunately, it's no longer the ending, as episodes 7, 8, and 9 are soon to be in production. Number 4. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Other films can try to duplicate it, but there will never be another Who Framed Roger Rabbit. This is easily the best film of its kind. This was such a great leap in the world of filmmaking, and this film has earned its spot in history. What really stands out about this film is that it's more than just a cartoon film. They actually wrote a very mature storyline, but blended in the childish element of the cartoon characters, and that's what makes this movie very unique, because they managed to keep the adults acting like adults. These are all the elements where future films such as Space Jam and Looney Tunes Back in Action failed at. The cast was also perfect. Bob Hoskins as Valiant, Christopher Lloyd as Doom, Joanna Cassidy as Dolores, and this also marked the last theoretical film where Mel Blanc voiced the Looney Tunes characters. It's so well made. Robert Zemeckis, as I've said before, was interested in going to the next level in terms of filmmaking with each film that he made, and wanted to be revolutionary, and this was one of those films where all of his ideas really worked. I simply love Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Number 3. Airplane. The world of parody was still in its early stages at that time, and was still slowly working its way into the mainstream. Young Frankenstein, while not the first parody ever made, was the most successful up to that point. Airplane wanted to take it to the next level. Instead of being a blend of kid humor and adult humor, Airplane was very much a 100% adult-humored film, and a great one at that. Also, just to give you an idea of how lenient the age rating system was back then, this film got a PG rating, which would definitely not happen in this day and age, because nudity is not even allowed in PG-13 films anymore. The title says it all. It parodies airplane flicks, particularly the 1957 film 0 Hour. It was definitely an interesting choice because usually you parody a film that's well known to everybody, and 0 Hour was an okay movie, but it definitely wasn't that well known. The funniest element of the entire film is that every cast member plays everything so straight. They play off jokes like they were meant for drama, and that works so well. The film was cleverly cast because the veteran actors in the movie, Lloyd Bridges, Peter Graves, Robert Stack, and of course Leslie Nielsen, had never really done comedies before, and a lot of people today don't remember that or have just plain never been told about it. Leslie Nielsen and Lloyd Bridges were just absolutely hilarious and stole the show. So overall, you just don't see parodies like this anymore. Jim Abraham and David and Jerry Zucker just brought so much to this film. They wrote a very funny movie and managed to make it work on screen. I admire this film not just for the final product, but also its production. It was a script that no one approved of when they first wrote it, and when it was finally approved, it was a hit. It was just a great lesson on never giving up hope. Number 2. Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back. There have been long arguments over which Star Wars film is better, A New Hope or The Empire Strikes Back. I view it as, if you like both films, who cares? George Lucas pretty much took everything about A New Hope and made it bigger for The Empire Strikes Back. The story is delved into more, we learn more about the characters' backstories, and the dramatic element of the film is pushed to a level that was not quite there in A New Hope. The entire original cast returns for this film and are all wonderful. Mark Hamill really proved himself as an actor in this film and does a tremendous job. I think one of the better elements about the film when comparing it to A New Hope is the dialogue. George Lucas is a good director and can film a really beautiful movie, but he has become very well known for not allowing the actors that he works with to improvise. Irvin Kershner took the director's chair for this film and is a little better in that department, and it shows, particularly in the romance moments in the film. The action is just phenomenal. The film was on a bigger budget and that allowed for more action, and they made it look better than the first film. Also, The Empire Strikes Back will go down in film history as having one of the most surprising endings ever. While it doesn't mean much now with all 6 films being made, but the reveal of Darth Vader as Luke's father was a big deal back then because no one knew about it. Only 4 people knew the truth before the premiere of the film: Lucas, Kershner, James Earl Jones, and Mark Hamill. And Hamill didn't know until a few minutes before they shot the scene. Unfortunately, secrecy like this cannot be kept in film anymore. It's just like pro wrestling today. Back then, secrecy in any business was so easy, but now, with the internet, it's become impossible. But overall, Empire Strikes Back is one of few sequels that's just as good, if not better, than the original, and that says a lot for any sequel. And number 1, Batman. I know it will make Star Wars fans mad to see this movie above The Empire Strikes Back, but I just love Tim Burton's Batman, and to me, as much as this might make Batman fans mad, I still find it to be the best Batman film ever made. Batman came out at a time when comic films were still very rare in the world of film. Obviously, Superman was there, but there really wasn't anything else. Batman was the first comic film to take a realistic look on comic book adaptations, still keeping the comic book element alive, but placing it in the real world. While this might not look real when compared to today's comic films, this was the most realistic comic films had gotten up to that point. It was dark, gritty, and violent, but it was also fun and enjoyable, which is an odd combination for any film. Tim Burton might not have been 100% loyal to the source material, but the changes that he did make worked in the film's favor. My favorite change was the Joker's origins. Fans seem to be split over it. A lot of people loved the acid scene with Jack Napier falling into it and becoming the Joker. That went over well, but most people were split over the Joker being the murderer of Batman's parents. To me, that worked well from a movie standpoint. There had to be that element to really make that rivalry personal, and I thought that worked perfectly. Also, Keaton is still the best Batman. I know Christian Bale tries his best, and I'll never take anything away from his acting ability, but Michael Keaton really got it right. Batman should be the quiet hero. Keaton acts mainly with his eyes and has very little dialogue when in the costume, and that works best. Also, there is a constant argument over which Joker is better, Ledger or Nicholson. To me, there's no comparison between the two. They're two entirely different takes on the character, and both are great in their own ways. I really only wanted this summary to go on for about a minute, but with so many arguments over Tim Burton's work and Christopher Nolan's work now, it's tough to do. But to make a long story short, this is still my favorite Batman movie. I know a lot of people are going to disagree, but that's just how I feel. Now let's move on to the top 10 worst movies of the 80s.